Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we take questions as part of our listener mailbag for the month of March. We actually didn't have a mailbag in February because it was a busy month between some transactions the Orioles made as well as our top 50 prospects unveiling. So this is the first time in a while we've had a chance to open the mailbag. And we're looking forward to getting into a lot of good listener questions tonight about all things related to the Orioles, including majors and minors. But first, Orioles on the Verge is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Protein Bars, IQ Mix Hydration Mixes, and IQ Joe Mushroom Coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix Sticks, and 4 IQ Joe Sticks. All IQ Bar ingredients are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. I can tell you I've been trying them out here over the last week or so since IQ Bar came on as a sponsor. A lot of good flavors to check out. Personally, the peanut butter crunch is my favorite, but be sure to check out any IQ Bar, which it's the perfect time to do so right now because IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And now, as we like to do with all of our mailbag episodes, we want to get into topics that have to do with all things Orioles. And I'm going to start off with this question from Peter because I'm going to get started on a bold note. And I think that this question does kind of get us into the territory of bold. And that question from Peter is, should Luis De Leon start in Norfolk? Now, De Leon impressing right now in Orioles camp, was named the top 100 prospect by Baseball America recently, but also looking at a guy that has just a handful of starts in Double-A, not to mention what should be a pretty crowded rotation picture in Norfolk to start this season. But interesting to consider here, so let's start with Nick. Should De Leon start in Norfolk or in Chesapeake as we've kind of been expecting to this point?
Not getting bold yet with my answer. With this one, I just think he only has 16 Double-A innings right now, and yeah, he's looked good in the Arizona Fall League. He's looked good in a couple spring games. We know the ceiling is incredibly high. We also don't know exactly what the Orioles are looking for in terms of what's on his developmental checklist right now. And between what they're seeing in camp and in these limited spring innings, maybe he is checking a lot of those boxes and he does start in AAA. But you're kind of looking at a AAA rotation pending health as at the time of this recording, everybody's pretty healthy for the most part. I hate saying that out loud, but you could be looking at a AAA rotation of Hovich, Brandon Young, Trey Gibson, Nestor Herman, Levi Wells. Blake Money has 68 Double-A innings under his belt. Jerron Watts-Brown has 86 Double-A innings under his belt. And they're both 2 years older than Luis De Leon, so I don't think I see him starting in AAA. He was also not that long ago at a point where he was questioning whether or not he wanted to keep pitching. So I think I'm going to be patient with him. Go master Double-A, get a good handful of AAA innings by the end of the year, and get added to the 40-man this offseason and see what 2027 brings. I think that's conservative. I think he can beat that, but I'm okay as long as everyone else stays fairly healthy and we see some regular development with some of these other guys. Doesn't even have to be everybody, but I think you can. I think De Leon's going to still be on the right track, even if he doesn't start in AAA.
Should he start in AAA Norfolk in a vacuum? Yes, probably. Just because I think the skill level is there, the performance is there, especially since he went on that tear in August into the AFL, into spring training. But yeah, like Nick said, it's not going to hurt him at all to go back to Double-A, get 40, 50 innings there, get up to AAA at some point during the season. And as long as he just continues to progress, maybe he makes his major league debut. Maybe he he makes enough advances in what they want to see him do that he does get to AAA pretty quickly, and then he does just line up better when they need a starter. I could see it happening, or if they need a weapon in the bullpen, even someone that could prevent home runs for the playoff push. Then maybe we see him make his major league debut then. But he's what, 22 years old? Is that how old he is? I think, and I don't think it's a huge rush. He's continuing to develop. He looks fantastic, averaging 97.1 miles per hour on his heavy sinker, getting strikeouts against major leaguers, all good stuff. But I think for good and bad, spring training, it's more about the continued development and the progress that they're making. I don't think the results are quite as important. I think, and this is not a new level of thinking here, but I think I myself even get caught up in it because it's first time baseball's been around in months. But I just think we make too much of baseball results in spring training for good or bad. I even see the MLB trade rumors, the one trade news that's really popular on Twitter and Blue Sky, oh my God, Connor Griffin, 13 at bats, this is incredible. It's okay, let's calm down. But I understand it, but I also
can't hit Levi Wells. He ain't no god in my book.
But yeah, super. I couldn't be more excited for Luis De Leon, but I do think he starts in Double-A.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that he's had a really encouraging spring, and to come on the heels of the way he performed in the Arizona Fall League, it's very easy to get excited about him. But we're talking about someone who has just 3 Double-A starts under their belt. And, as Nick pointed out, there are some pitchers that have a lot more time at Double-A that if you're looking at someone on the bubble between Double-A and Triple-A, you would probably put ahead of Luis De Leon, Jerron Watts Brown, Blake Money, either one of those guys. De Leon, I've been saying for years, De Leon has the stuff of a top 100 prospect. So, and we've seen that firsthand over the last year, but I don't think it's going to hurt him at all to go back to Double-A to start this year, pitch there a couple of months, go to Norfolk, and then who knows? Maybe as we get later in the season, especially the Orioles are making a playoff push, September call-up becomes a real possibility, especially with him being Rule 5 eligible, which is a topic we'll get into in a little bit here.
Yeah, and I'm not moving I'm not moving Levi Wells to the bullpen yet. Anybody else? No. That Norfolk bullpen is going to be pretty impressive in its own right, and those guys are going to need some innings. So I think a lot of it, too, is just going to be he had 87 innings each of the last 2 years, but last year you add on Arizona Fall League innings, which I don't have off the top of my head. So I think he got to over 100 last year, but still, I think it's just going to be better if he can go down to Double-A, and if you can go 5, 6, 7 innings each time out, that's going to be better for his development than trying to squeeze in more innings at that Triple-A. What's hopefully going to be a pretty crowded Triple-A rotation bullpen.
Absolutely. Well, let's go on to the next question from Domino Effect, who says, thoughts on a Kramer trade if Rogers, Bradish, Boz, Bassett, and Eflin are healthy. Then we rock with Pervich, Young, Gibson, Erman, or Weston to be the 6th starter if one is needed. Zach is gone. Nick?
It just kind of feels like right now, it just kind of feels like you'd be trading just to trade. And I don't really see a need to. Unless you've been working on a deal all offseason or for the last couple of weeks, and for whatever reason it can come together now, great. But I just think it's okay to go into the season with the amount of depth the Orioles have. If that pushes Cade Povich to AAA, and I know he's done pretty well this spring. We talked about the hopeful gains he's going to make this year a couple weeks ago, and he's showing that so far. But if he gets pushed to AAA, that's still more than fine. I hate that for him because he deserves a shot to continue building on last year. But if he's in AAA, Brandon Young, as much as we like him, he hasn't proven that he can be a guy that gives you regular starts in the big leagues. Gibson and Herman, they're going to get their shot when they're ready. Nobody's blocking them. They've had limited time in AAA, and they didn't blow anybody away in AAA last year. So he mentions Weston there. I don't think he's someone the organization is going to turn to for starter depth. And we've talked about this a couple of times recently. And after he's had, 2 spring outings, but it's been, 6 or 7 innings of, really good pitching so far. I'm even more convinced, this is the guy that you bring him in for 1-2 inning stints. And big league hitters are going to have trouble picking him up that first time, but second time through the order, I could see things getting pretty rocky at that point. So I don't know. Bradish only has 70 something, 80 something innings in the last 2 years. Eflin just had major back surgery. Like, I don't know. I'm fine with keeping Kramer. You finding a way to keep all these guys, and for people who have options, if you can stash them in AAA, again, if it's guys like Povich and it hurts a little bit, like, so be it. I'd rather have the extra numbers going into this season, especially after what we saw last year and how quickly arms can fall off.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, unless, like you said, they've been working on something that involves Kramer, maybe with the Mountcastle, because that's still unbelievable that he's still on the roster. Even like Kramer, we've heard a lot that he never stopped throwing this year to try to get away from his slow starts that he's had throughout his career. Looks good so far. He looked pretty good in the World Baseball Classic. I want to say yesterday or the day before. He pitched like 4 1/3. Stuff looked good. He's also like one of the few guys that is under team control past this year. I know it's only one more year. I think he's free agent after 2027, but I don't think we're just going to trade him just to trade him, like you said, when he could be a guy that could be needed at the back end of the rotation next year, depending on how things go development wise. If we're still rocking and rolling with all these prospects coming up and looking fantastic, and maybe they extend a Rogers or what have you, then maybe at the deadline or next offseason, they could look to make a trade involving Kramer. But right now, yeah, I'm very happy with the depth. Even Povich looks great. I'm still a believer in him as a mid to back end of the rotation starter, or even a high end reliever if it comes to that. But I don't see any harm with him continuing to refine things in AAA if he has to. It's his final option year, I believe. But we know he's got the stuff to, if he even is in AAA half the year, 3/4 of the year this season, he can come back in 2027 and be on the Major League roster all year, no problem. And yeah, if you're going to maybe turn one of these guys into a reliever, maybe Brandon Young is that guy. Cameron Weston, I do think long-term, his future in the major leagues is as a multi-inning reliever. I'm encouraged by what we've seen from him, but maybe Luis De Leon gets added to this list instead of that last list we were talking about. Zach, your take on a possible Dean Kramer trade?
So I think with Kramer, you hold on to him just because there's a lot of uncertainty with this group. First of all, we don't know that Zach Eflin is going to be ready by opening day. And the other thing, too, is that as we learned last year, you can never have too much depth. And if I'm thinking ahead about how you're going to manage possibly 6 starters, my first thought is to actually move Zach Eflin to the bullpen as opposed to trading Dean Kramer, because with Dean Kramer, you know what you're getting. He might struggle out of the gate, but then he's going to settle in and give you good starts here and there, and then the season will end and he'll have 170 innings of 3.5 to 4 ERA baseball, and you'll be glad you had him somewhere in the 3 to 5 range of your rotation. So I'm not eager to move on from him. And, it's also, I will admit that some of the guys that could come up later in the season, whether it's Trey Gibson, Nestor Herman, Levi Wells, or Luis De Leon, certainly have much higher ceilings than Dean Kramer does. But you know what you're getting with Kramer, and you don't know what you're getting with any of those guys. So if you have 6 healthy starters going into this season, enjoy that problem while you can, because it probably won't last.
Yeah, and looking ahead a little bit, this is looking way too far ahead, I think. We're not even into the regular season, but Trevor Rogers, this is final year on Trevor Rogers' deal, right? I know a lot of people would love an extension at some point, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Bassett was a 1-year deal, and Eflin was a 1-year deal. So there's 3 guys right there. And until some of the younger guys are proving themselves in the big leagues yet, it's hard for me to part with any of this depth right now. We can reassess later into the season and see where this team is at, and revisit any trade discussions that have already taken place. And at that point, need to pull the trigger, do it. But yeah, right now, like I said, it just feels like trading just to trade.
Yeah, I think, and Zach Eflin looked really good in his first spring start. His velocity was up like 2 ticks compared to the last couple years. And yeah, I think he'll probably get slow play to start the year on the IL for the first week. While there's all those off days, he'll probably get 1 or 2 AAA starts to finish his spring training type of buildup. And then maybe you go to the 6-man rotation for a few weeks, and whoever's performing the worst or what have you, maybe they have to be a long reliever partially until they're needed. Like the depth is not a bad thing by any means.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Well, speaking of trades, Vivek wants to know, broaden this out a little bit, any final trade possibilities in these last 3 weeks? Zach, what do you think?
You really can't rule out a bullpen move, especially in light of Andrew Kittredge's health concerns we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I don't think we're going to see a major move necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a cash considerations for a bullpen arm, or maybe you look to move someone that has had a good spring, but that you don't see room for on the opening day roster. See what you can get for them. I do think they will try to address the bullpen in some way, shape, or form between now and opening day, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a major move.
I just refuse to believe there's a world where Ryan Mountcastle makes the opening day roster. Still, like, I'm been perplexed every step of the way. Like, I'm surprised they tendered him a contract. I'm surprised they actually agreed to a deal and didn't leave themselves the option to cut him and save money. They actually agreed to the deal with the mutual option, which obviously I think maybe that's more of make him a viable trade candidate with that little bit of extra potential team control there. But I also don't see who's going to trade for him, because even a guy like Rhys Hoskins, who I would say is a better just pure hitter, at least proven major league hitter at this point than Mountcastle. He got signed to a minor league deal. Like, who's going to trade actual assets for Ryan Mountcastle, who's making $8 million this year? But I just also don't see how there's room for him. I mean, there might be room for him, but how valuable is a late pinch hitter, defensive replacement first baseman going to be? And how long can you even justify keeping him on the roster once Westberg and Holiday come back? I am perplexed every step of the way with Ryan Mountcastle. So I will continue to predict that he will be traded at some point, whether it's for that extra reliever or for a can of beans. I don't know. I think he'll probably get traded. I could see maybe they don't like what or even if they do potentially like what they see from like Tyrell Estrada or some of that last bench player that's going to get the backup infielder role. Maybe someone becomes available that they're like, this is a 0.3% increase over what we have here. Let's make a minor trade for this backup infielder and have cut him in 2 weeks, or I don't know. I could see a trade or two, but it's not going to be anything major, obviously.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Just like if you see a trade at this point, I just think it's going to be to skip the waiver wire to go get that bullpen guy that you want. But I will say I've seen more and more the last couple of days, more and more talk about the Braves and Mountcastle because Profar getting popped and what they would get in return. I think a lot of people looking at that as like DH. I know they have like pretty good first base situation over there, but like DH. If Fangraphs would cooperate, Fangraphs, I love you, but you have made your website on the free version just unusable right now. Here we go. Dominic Smith, a non-roster invitee, is slotted in, according to Roster Resource, as their DH. But I've heard I've read an article and it was a podcast I was listening to that both mentioned Ryan Mountcastle and the Braves. I don't know if the Braves have any pitchers standing. I think, didn't they have someone else tear their ACL today? Like, pitchers are going down left and right in Atlanta, but you're not going to get a ton for them. So I don't know. I think
I'm sold. Make the deal.
somebody's going to step up and want that bat. Who, I don't know, but I think they're going to they're going to find a way. They're going to want that, like you mentioned, they're going to want that roster spot for somebody else when the time gets to it. I don't know. I think was it game yesterday? I don't think I watched yesterday. The last game I watched, it was either Saturday or Sunday one. And they showed him, and he's just like sitting there, just like leaning against the rail, like face on the rail, the dugout. When they cut to him, he just looks like he I don't know. It just looked like he's just soaking it in. Just like not. I don't really know how to his expression on his face was not content, but just like I don't know. He's like, I don't know where I'm going to be at next week or 2 weeks from now. He's like, I'm
he's
here with my
probably
boys.
just as confused as we are. Like
That too.
Writing is on the wall, man.
It was just perfect timing. He was like one of the only starters still in the game. It was just like, yeah, bro, you kind of feel bad, but.
Well, Nick, as you struggle with Fangraphs, the reason my internet connection dropped off a few minutes ago is I was on Baseball Reference looking something up for Luis De Leon, and a laundry detergent ad flew onto the screen and kicked me off of here. So maybe they can have, they've always had different wars. Maybe they can have different measurements for ads that are annoying while you're trying to use their websites. I'll go over now to this question from Doug the Pro, and this is really a fun one. What would be your ideal prospect tool set using the 20 to 80 scale where the sum of all 5 tools is 250? Now, given the total sum, you obviously can't go 80s across the board, so you got to split it up a little bit. But this is still fun to think about, and I'll start with Bob for this one.
Okay, I think I have a good idea of what I want to do here. I think I would say 55 hit, 60 power, 50 defense. So that means I have, I'll say 40 speed, 45 arm. I think that comes out to, like, if everything was a 50, it would be 250, right? So yeah, 55 hit, 60 power, 50 field, 45 arm, 40 speed. Yeah, I want my guy to be able to hit for impact, play some solid defense. Speed, you can still be a good base runner if you don't have the best speed. So hopefully we can work on that guy in that regard. And the arm, hopefully he plays a position where it's not vital and can just at least get by. So that's how I would do it personally. It is a fun question though.
And it depends on the position too. Like I'm changing my answer. My mind instantly went to like bat first corner outfield. I feel like that's pretty standard Orioles response there. I've been conditioned well covering this team. So yeah, I kind of went 60 hit, 60 power, 50 speed, 40 field, 40 arm. I don't know. The balanced offensive approach, enough speed to be a threat on the bases. Again, it changes based on the position, but the idea being just like big time offensive impact here. I'm not overly concerned about the defense. Like take my guy out as a late game substitution if you need to, but like I want a game changer with the bat first and foremost.
Enrique Bradfield, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm going a similar path as Nick. I'm going to go 50 hit, 55 power, 50 speed, 50 speed, 50 defense, and 45 arm to get myself there to 250.
Honestly, 50s across the board wouldn't be too bad either. I mean, you're a well-rounded player, and yeah, I mean, that's probably what, close to like a Nick Markakis type. Maybe he's like a 55, 60 arm, but the bird is the word wants to know, are you worried about the bullpen following the Kittredge injury? This is what we were talking about earlier. Who are the best options right now, Nick?
I'm not too worried. It doesn't seem like anything serious. Even if he starts the year in the IL, it just doesn't feel like it seems like it's going to be a short IL stint. I just think there are a lot of options available right now. Like you can cycle through the guys without options, like Jackson Kowar. I know when we had Jake Grillo on last week, I think he spoke fairly highly of Kowar. It seemed like they were hyping him up a little bit on the broadcast the last game he pitched in as well. But I think he could get some run. You've got guys too like Jose Espada and Yarmil Geraldo. Like they may not be long-term answers, but they can give you something in good small stretches, I think. I know Anthony Nunez and Cameron Foster aren't making the team out of camp since they were just sent down to minor league camp on Sunday, but they're on the 40-man and having strong springs. Neither has really faced tough competition. Like keep that in mind when looking at their spring stat lines. I was looking earlier because I was going to write an article this morning on Cameron Foster, but when they got sent down, I we'll save that one for when he gets called up to the big leagues. But like their opponent quality scores on Baseball Reference, I think Nunez was a 6.2, which is basically like good quality high A competition. Cameron Foster was a 7.1, which is double A competition. But you look at the stuff. There's lots like there with both. There are going to be one or two relievers who get DFA'd that when rosters are being finalized, that they deserve to be on the big league roster. But good teams are going to face a roster crunch, and it's a numbers game at that point, and guys are going to get through. And I'm sure the Orioles already have a list. I guarantee you they've already identified a small group of relievers that they're waiting for them to hit the waiver wire. And as soon as they do, Elias is making the call to make that trade there, I imagine. I think if you need a replacement or the last bullpen spot, like I don't even think that guy's in the organization right now. But I still, it's the positional group that I have the most concerns about, but it's not one that I'm overly concerned about right now. And honestly, a big reason for that is like Tyler Wells. Like I'm pretty jacked to watch Tyler Wells this year in his role. I think he's going to have a pretty awesome year. And that alleviates a lot of my concerns with possible Cano not stepping up, with the Kittredge injury, with a lot of things. Tyler Wells just kind of reinforces a lot of that belief in this positional group for me.
Yeah, Nick just talked about what I was going to say, which is that Tyler Wells being around and being firmly in a bullpen role right now is really helpful because it's someone who's had success in the majors in high leverage spots before. And I know that it's tempting to think about what he could give you over 15 to 20 starts over a major league season because in that kind of sample size as a starter, he actually has been successful. But we also know there are questions about him being able to make it through a full season. So if he can be available for you in that high leverage relief role early on to help fill in the void while Kittredge is out, if Kittredge does, in fact, miss time at the beginning of the season, that's really going to help. And another guy that is kind of alleviating some concerns here for me is Grant Wolfram. I think that he's had a really good spring so far. And we've talked pretty much all offseason about maybe the Orioles need to add another lefty. Maybe they need to add somebody towards the back end that can throw from the left side to get you out in that high leverage spot. From what I'm seeing right now, Grant Wolfram can be that guy. Now, the stuff has not translated to major league success yet, but what we've seen over his career in the minors is that the stuff is very good. So if he can get into a more stable situation this year where he's not on the Norfolk Shuffle and he's got an opportunity to start this season in the majors and prove what he can do, that could do a lot for him. So between that and the possibility of being able to make a move off the waiver wire before the end of camp, I'm not too concerned about the bullpen. Obviously, you'd feel better about the bullpen with Andrew Kittredge in there from day one, but if he has to miss a little bit of time, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and at least based off his comments, it sounds like he doesn't think it's anything too serious. He's hoping to get back into game action fairly soon. So if he misses a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, similar to last year, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I'm going to pull a Buck Showalter, and I like our guys. I mean, I also think it's also like the one thing Mike Elias has proven time and time again, he's able to make something out of nothing when it comes to the bullpen and the pitching development system in the Orioles. I mean, I like Helsley. I like Rick Garcia a lot. Tyler Wells looks really good in his role. I agree with Nick. Cano's stuff looks like it's as good as it's been in a while. Keegan Aiken. I agree. Grant Wolfram's pretty good. Yarmil Geraldo, Jose Espada, I'm interested in. And the stuff looks incredible for McDermott, Foster, Nunez, Alex Pham even had some really great stuff numbers. Got some interesting arms there as well. So yes, it's definitely on paper is the low point of this team going into opening day, but it's not something I'm overly concerned about. Would I be happy if they did go out and get someone? Sure. Yeah, I think they could easily do that, and they might still do that. But if they don't, I'm not like, oh my God, we're going to blow so many close games. I don't know. I think the offense is going to be good enough. I think the starting pitchers will be good enough, and the depth is there to get innings, whereas the bullpen won't be overworked early, hopefully, like it was big time last year. And I think it'll get better as the season goes on, as the young guys come up with the great stuff and take over for some of the lesser roles at the back end of the bullpen.
We'll go to Bobby's question now. Most likely of the Rule 5 eligible arms to hold on to versus deal at the deadline. We know this is a very long list, even though they've traded a couple guys already, but there's still a very long list. Zach, who are the Orioles most likely to hold on to? I think the ad got Zach again.
Oh no. All right, I'll take over from here. I'm just going to go down the list. It's on our Substack, which great list here. You have Michael Ferret and Wellington Arcina already erased from this discussion, but still a lot of names. Trey Gibson, I think he's safe. Keep him. Erman and Wells, I'm keeping both of them. Obviously, Luis De Leon, I'm keeping. Zach Fruit, Jerron Watts Brown, Blake Money, I think are guys that obviously it depends if they develop and it's like, oh, they took a big step, then obviously I'm going to want to keep them. But those are guys that I would be looking to include in a deal if they have the value correct on the other side. And I think guys like Braxton Bragg, Patrick Riley, and Kiefer Lord, I'm keeping coming off the injuries because I don't know. I think their value won't be as high unless they like. I also think you could take the chance potentially to leave them off the 40-man and leave them open for the Rule 5 draft and try to gamble that one of them could stay. But especially Braxton Bragg, I think I'm holding on to him. I think his value will be diminished and he might get robbed from us in the Rule 5 draft. But yeah, so I guess the guys that I'd be potentially looking to trade would be Zach Fruit, Jerron Watts Brown, Blake Money, and potentially Patrick Riley, Kiefer Lord, depending how the season goes, how it looks at the end of the year, and if I want to just gamble leaving them off and hoping to keep them in the system.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines here for pitchers that are Rule 5 eligible. If I had to go with someone that you could hold on to, I think it will be Bragg, because if he goes to the Arizona Fall League, you'll have the option to get him stretched out there, hopefully be able to protect him on the tail end of that if he's healthy. And then for starters that you could move, I would look at Riley, because I do think that if he gets back early in the season and he starts at Double-A or he gets substantial innings at Double-A, you're going to have to make that move quickly. Jerron Watts Brown, statistically the guy belongs in Triple-A, but I think he's going to start this season back at Double-A. So you could look to move him. Blake Money's kind of in the same mold for me. And then with Kiefer Lord, I think that you can bury him a little bit, so I'm not too worried about his Rule 5 eligibility. Gibson, Herman, Wells, De Leon, I think those are the guys you absolutely try to hold on to regardless, unless that player you're going out and getting at the deadline is a Tarek Skubal type, or it's somebody you've got a year and a half control over where it's worth moving one of those top guys. I'm holding on to them.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to trade Michael Ferret, because one of the reasons why I was like so in tune to him last year, especially, was because all of the feedback we were getting about how high internally the Orioles were in on Ferret. So that was a shocker. The Wellington Arcina move was also a bit of a shocker, but I think that was going to be one of those iffy ones, right? He's got the control issues. Do you fast track him a little bit, or do you try to hold him back? When you've got this big list, you're able to fill a need in the major league, at the major league level, to get Blaze Alexander there, which actually, since that did happen before the Jackson Holiday injury, turned out to be a nice little extra blessing there. Yeah, you guys read off the list. I've got like 8 that I think are confirmed. Like, if they're available, they're going to be taken. Fruit is a questionable one, I think, because is he healthy, first and foremost? Can he throw strikes next year? Enough strikes. Kiefer Lord, I agree, like Zach kind of mentioned there. I think Kiefer Lord, you slow play him. Like, he only pitched 9 innings last year. He didn't pitch really, the 2 years before that. So I think you can slow play him, have him in the year in high A, and then you've got another year to figure out what you've got in Kiefer Lord.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
I'm kind of thinking like most likely, like if there's one guy who you were going to keep, we'll turn this question into another question. Because I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago, how to incorporate this. Among that list, Trey Gibson, Nestor Herman, Levi Wells, Luis De Leon, Blake Money, Jerron Watts-Brown, Braxton Bragg, Patrick Riley. And you can throw in Fruit and Lord as well. If you guys could pick one player, considering the current Orioles roster construction, and considering development continues to go as planned, but we're not doing Frankenstein prospects yet. Like Jerron Watts-Brown isn't going to get a 70-grade fastball. But what their tools are, strengths are now, development continues to grow, but they reach their pretty much full potential. Which guy on that list do you think is the absolute most, or who could make the biggest impact with the Major League Orioles? Because I have an answer that I think there's one guy alone in his tier at the top, personally.
It's Luis De Leon for me. Yeah. I just think, I know he's only pitched in a couple innings stints, so maybe, over the course of a long season, he's not going to average over 97 miles per hour on his sinker. But I think it was JCM, Jacob Calvin Meyer, that tweeted out that Tarek Skubal is the only other guy that averaged a 97 plus mile per hour sinker in the major leagues last year. And he's got pretty nasty changeup, nasty slider. Sky's the limit. I know they said skylight's the limit for Esteban Mejia, but Luis De Leon, I feel like he's pretty much middle of the rotation ready at this point. It's just about refining the command and the sequencing and the little things, I feel like. But his big tools are right there.
Yeah, without a doubt, for me, it's De Leon. Just someone from the left side that throws that hard, generates ground balls at the rate that he does and has. For his age, a pretty broad pitch mix. I'm definitely holding on to De Leon, assuming development stays on track.
All on the same page. That's exactly who I had in mind, too. So if the question is, like, who do I want? If there's one guy I want to keep, it's De Leon. But it's going to be a fun group to follow all year, for sure.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about potential comeback prospects of the year. EJ wants to know, what's your prospect comeback of the year? And he gives us three options: Frederick Bencosme, Elvin Garcia, or spring training darling Vance Honeycutt. Zach?
I feel like the bar here might be the lowest for Elvin Garcia, because if the hand injury was in fact the issue last year and he's able to get through that, he goes back to the FCL. He was really pretty much overmatching pitchers in DSL a couple years ago. So if he goes to the FCL healthy, it could be a Luis Almeida, Joshua Lorenzo situation where after a good month he's promoted to Delmarva. But I do think, and this is something I'm working on for our Substack, I do think that there is something behind what we've seen from Vance Honeycutt this year. Maybe it's not the full-on improvements that you want him to make, but I, at the very least, feel like we're going to see him make more good contact this year. We're going to see him have more success with pitches in the zone. We're going to see him be a little bit more aggressive with pitches in the zone, frankly, and hit the ball for a little bit more power. You're still going to have the questions about the swing and miss. You're still going to have a lot of the things that have always been kind of hanging there with Honeycutt. But if he's hitting for more power this year and he's able to put together a good few months at Frederick, get to Double-A by the second half, you're starting to feel like he's back on track a little bit.
I'll go with Elvin Garcia. I feel like I've said it for the last 2 weeks. So the same reasons I said the last 2 weeks why he was like intriguing, why I would think he's going to be higher up our top 50 list. So I'll go there with my answer here. But yeah, the Honeycutt spring is fun. He did strike out today though, so the Bustameter is back with Vance Honeycutt. I don't think it's going to work out now. I was actually listening to, I don't know if anyone else listening has ever heard of the 11.7 podcast, college baseball podcast, and they were talking about Vance Honeycutt and how like when he was the 4-for-4 home run streak. And the host of the show was talking about, he was like, yeah, I was talking with a scout last year when they were watching Vance Honeycutt, and the scout asked him, and this guy like played D1 baseball in the past. So the scout asked him, what do you think of Vance Honeycutt? And I told him, this guy said, oh, I think he's got some holes, blah, 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 and listed off why he wasn't as high on Vance Honeycutt. And he said the scout laughed and looked at me and said, "That guy's going to be an all-star in the big leagues." So hopefully that scout ends up being right. I don't know what team that scout was for, but some praise there. But yeah, it's Ben Cosme. I don't know. Like, I've said it for like the last year now. I don't think the exit velos were ever that good, even though the home runs increased. He's got a WRC plus of 64 last year, 87 the year before that, and then 89 the year before that. Like, I don't know. He was an awesome person when you guys interviewed him on the podcast. He's a joy to watch. I think this will be his last year under team control, and he'll hit minor league free agency. I hope he comes back. I think he's just a guy that you kind of, maybe you bring him around because he is a good person and can play multiple positions. I think you bring him back as like AA, AAA depth to fill in the gaps. I have a hard time buying a Ben Cosme bounce back this year, even though I think he did have some injuries last year. But
yeah, this was a good selection because all three of these guys were guys that fell off my top 50 list throughout the year in 2025. I do agree that Ben Cosme, even if he does bounce back, he's still like a bench player. He's going to be like the Luis Vasquez in a couple of years, even if he does bounce back to what we thought he was a few years ago. Before spring training would have been Elvin Garcia, without a doubt, would be my pick. I just think injuries throughout his year, he's still super young, super talented. I think there's still plenty of development there, but Van Tonica does look pretty good. And it's not just the results, it's just his swing. It looks way more confident. He looks way less, it's like, when you see it, it doesn't seem as frantic. It doesn't seem as anxious. So it seems like a more confident, consistent swing. And even when he got out yesterday, it was like a hard line drive to the outfield, and his single was 97 point something up the middle. Just looks really good. So I'm going to guess that he either starts in Frederick and gets off to a good start and quickly up to Bowie or Chesapeake, or maybe they're like, man, he really did. They just took one awful year to put these changes into motion, and we're going to start him at center field in AA Chesapeake to start the year. And I'm not saying he's going to go back into my top 10, but I could certainly see him being in my top 50, even as soon as the next update we do.
That's why I keep saying, go back and redo that draft. I'm making that Van Sonny pick 99 out of 100 times, again and again and again. Last question here, looks like from Jordan Isaac. In the vein of my piece on Substack, I did a 3 bold Orioles prospect predictions piece on Substack. I think that released on Friday. What are y'all's bold prospect predictions for the year, if you have any yet? Bob?
I have a couple. I'm going to say Aaron Estrada shows out, and by the end of the year, he is a unanimous top 100 prospect throughout all the outlets in baseball. I think the hit tool, even this spring, he's hitting the ball hard. He's having good at bats. He made a couple nice plays in the field even, which was great to see. I think he's going to improve enough defensively to give the bat more assurance. I think he's really going to take off in a big way offensively for the Orioles in 2026. And after watching Joseph Giroux pitch yesterday, I'm very excited about him now because he was 94 to 96 in his inning of work, and that fastball will certainly play because I thought it would play at 92, 93. So, yeah, if he's going to be closer to mid-90s than low 90s, I think he might move really fast because his command was good. He's obviously got that tall left-handed, funky look from the left side and great secondaries as well. So, yeah, I think Aaron Estrada, Joseph Giroux, big years in 2026.
Those are good ones. And, Nick, I really like the one that you had at Substack about Aaron Estrada being on the postseason roster because I think that speaks volumes about what he could do this year. But for me, I'm going to go with Nate George and Vahiva Aloy end the year in AAA. I don't know if George is that bold of a prediction because he did go 3 levels last year, and it is a situation where I think if he had a really good spring, the Orioles could justify bumping him up to Chesapeake, but still, I think he's going to start this year back in Frederick. We know that there are a lot of questions for him to address with the power. I do think that we start to see more home run power this year. And with the Orioles, we know that they've been aggressive with George in the past. I think that if he goes to Frederick and is really good in the month of April, he could be the first of the big name prospects to start the year in high A that gets moved up to double A. And then with Eloy, I do have questions about the hit tool, and I don't know that he's going to address all of them this year. But if he's an above league average hitter at high A and double A, and he's playing really good shortstop defense, is there any reason to hold him back at double A to end the year? Or do you just push him to triple A, figure, you know what, we want him to be there next year, we want him to get to exposure, put him there for 10 to 14 games, and see what he does? It may not address every question that we have about Eloy's hit tool, but if he goes out and he puts up over 100, 110 WRC plus across both levels, and he has that opportunity to get to AAA at the end of the year because they like the defense, they like the power, they think he's walking enough, I could see that possibility, because maybe you just don't see a need for him to go back to AA, and you figure, you know what, let's give him 2 weeks at the end of the season to see what he can do in AAA and get his feet wet for next year.
I can't wait for a full season of Ahiva Eloy. And yeah, with the Jira the outing, that was a lot of fun. Because if I know that was only 1 inning, I'm sure he was hyped up. That was the first time putting on the uniform, first time we saw him as a pro. But the guy had a sub 7% walk rate across 3 years at college, and he pitched in the Big Ten all 3 years. He was in the weekend rotation from his freshman year. Probably the best. He's already got one of the best changeups in the organization right now. It's probably one of the top changeups in last year's draft class. If that fastball velo is going to be sitting where he was sitting in that 1 inning, which he's listed at 6'8", 200, there's more meat on the bone. Like that gets me excited. But I want to throw out mine for anyone who didn't read the article. I'll throw out one on the podcast and use this opportunity to say we're only 9 more subs away from 1,000 subs on Substack. So if we can get to 1,000 subs on Substack and 1,000 subs on YouTube before opening day, which what are we on YouTube? 918, 917? We might have some fun giveaways. I got some bobbleheads, some brand new in the box bobbleheads. Maybe we can give away in the next couple of weeks. But I'll throw out one prediction here on the podcast. I wrote this in the article. My hitter of the year in the organization, I'm going to say it's Jordan Sanchez. I'm getting excited. And he had, I believe, who was it that had the walk-off hit in the spring breakout game last year? Was that also Jordan Sanchez? Or was that somebody else?
I think it was
Leandro Arias.
Maybe it was Arias.
Maybe it was.
It
Arias. Now that you mention it.
It was a young international prospect. I can't remember who it was that had that, but he had the walk-off. Somebody had that walk-off hit. Regardless, he had the walk-off hit in the spring game the other day. I think he had a triple the other day as well. Look, that's like, 8th, 9th inning of a spring game. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but I pulled up, as I wrote in the article, Sanchez's swing decisions have been highly regarded since joining the organization. The power is impressive. As an 18-year-old last year, he had a 103 mile per hour, 90 EV. And so that is tied with Nate George. He's only 2 miles per hour off of Dylan Beavers. Samuel Basayo is 108, 90 EV for reference. And that is I think he had the second highest 90 EV on Baseball America's top 100 list. They did a whole article about this. And as Baseball America put it, they did a full article looking at 90 EVs of their top 100 prospects. And at the top of the article, they say, quote, "There's been a clear correlation between power and in-game performance." Jordan Sanchez had that power from a very young age. He's getting some nice confidence boosters early on. The confidence booster at the end of last year. I'm excited to see what Jordan Sanchez does this year.
Yeah, I just looked up as Leandro Arias.
Okay. It was one of the younger international stars, I remembered. Leandro Arias needs some confidence boosters this year, but that's another podcast.
Yeah, I was trying to find the box score, and instead I got a video. So I was watching the video, and Olsen over and tied the game with the triple. Rest in peace.
And with that does it for this episode. We will be back later this week with our Frankenstein prospects. And if that does sound weird, it is a little bit weird, but if you listen to the episode, it will make sense. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take one prospect and we're going to give him a tool or a skill from another prospect, put together an even better player. This is something we did almost 3 years ago was the last time we did it. So we're actually going to look back at what we did in 2023 before we get into our 2026 selections. So be sure to check that out. In the meantime, you can follow our many social media accounts, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today. It's $3, $5, or $10 levels, and have access to bonus coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself every week during the regular season, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 list. You're not going to want to miss that. And mark your calendars for March 29th. That is 20 days from the day we are recording this episode. Bob and I will be joined by Connor Newcomb of Locked On Orioles for a special live show at Checker Spot Brewing. Checker Spot not far from Camden Yards. So if you have tickets to that afternoon's game between the Orioles and the Twins, stop in ahead of time, listen to the show, grab a beer, head over to the game. If you don't have tickets, Checker Spot is a great place to watch the game with plenty of good food and drinks. You're not going to want to miss that, so be sure to check out our social media over the coming weeks for more promotion on that. You can also get more information in Checker Spot's tap room, as well as on their social media channels between now and March 29th. That live show will begin at 12:30 p.m. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens and Zach Spedden, you've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.